How many hours did you sleep last night? When you woke up this morning, did you feel heavy, groggy, like your body was still begging for rest? Or maybe you felt fine at first, but then 2 o'clock hit, and out of nowhere, that wave of exhaustion crashed over you, making it nearly impossible to focus on anything at all. Doctors and health professionals have long recommended that teenagers get 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night, and adults aim for 7 to 8. But in the relentlessly fast-paced world we live in, where productivity is currency, getting that much sleep has started to feel like a luxury most of us simply cannot afford. So you cut corners. You shave an hour here, 2 hours there, and you give that time to your work instead. It feels like a reasonable trade, but here is the uncomfortable truth. It is not. When you are sleep deprived, your brain does not just slow down a little. Research has shown that a person who has been awake for 24 consecutive hours demonstrates hand-eye coordination worse than someone with a blood alcohol level of 0.1%, legally drunk in most countries. You are not just tired, you are cognitively impaired, attempting to do your best work in a state that is fundamentally working against you. But what if you genuinely cannot afford 8 full hours? What if the demands on your time are real and unavoidable? That is where the Stanford Sleep Method comes in. Developed by Professor Seiji Nishino, director of the Stanford Sleep Research Center, one of the world's foremost institutions dedicated to the science of sleep. This approach offers a science-backed solution for high performers who cannot always sleep long, but still need to sleep well. After more than 40 years of research with subjects operating under extreme pressure, professional athletes, executives, politicians, Professor Nishino arrived at a core insight that changes everything. Sleep quality is not measured by how long you sleep, it is measured by the structure and efficiency of your sleep cycles. It is not about the quantity of hours, it is about what happens inside those hours. Today, we are going to break down exactly how to optimize your sleep using the Stanford framework, so you can eliminate that morning heaviness, that afternoon fog, and that nagging sense that no matter how much you sleep, you never quite feel restored. Let's get into it. Of all the findings to emerge from Stanford's sleep research, perhaps none is more immediately actionable than this. The first 90 minutes after you fall asleep are the most critical window of the entire night. Professor Nishino calls this the golden 90 minutes, and for good reason. This single window determines the majority of your body's restorative capacity, regardless of how many total hours you spend in bed. Here is why. After you close your eyes, your body typically takes around 8 to 10 minutes to begin its descent into deep sleep, what scientists call non-REM or slow-wave sleep. Throughout a full night, you cycle through multiple sleep stages repeatedly, but that very first cycle is special. It is when you reach your deepest, most sustained slow-wave sleep, and it lasts roughly 90 to 120 minutes. During this window, your brain activates its glymphatic system, essentially a biological waste disposal process that flushes out metabolic toxins accumulated during the day. At the same time, this is when growth hormone secretion peaks, driving cellular repair, tissue restoration, and full body energy recovery. Think of it as your body's nightly maintenance window. Miss it or disrupt it, and everything downstream suffers. Here is the critical implication. If you sleep soundly and without interruption during this first 90-minute cycle, your overall sleep quality can remain high, even if your total sleep time is shorter than ideal. On the flip side, if this window is broken by noise, an uncomfortable room temperature, or an anxious, racing mind, the architecture of your entire night is compromised. You may sleep 8 hours and still wake up feeling wrecked. This is exactly why so many people who technically get enough sleep still drag themselves through the morning and hit a wall in the afternoon. Their first cycle was fragmented, and no amount of additional sleep time fully compensates for that. So what does Professor Nishino advise? Do not ignore your body's first sleep signal. When drowsiness arrives naturally in the evening, that is your circadian rhythm opening a door. An invitation into your deepest, most restorative sleep phase. If you fight it, if you push through to answer one more email or finish one more episode, you miss that window. And when you finally do lie down later, reaching the same depth of sleep becomes significantly harder. If you are in a season of heavy workload and truly cannot sleep a full night, Nishino's recommendation is clear. Sleep the moment drowsiness arrives, protect that first 90-minute cycle, and then rise to continue working afterward. A brain that has completed one full deep sleep cycle is dramatically sharper, more accurate, and more capable than a brain running on fumes for hours. You will get more done in less time, and you will do it better. To consistently achieve that uninterrupted golden 90 minutes, the Stanford method focuses on deliberately controlling two key variables. What Professor Nishino describes as the two biological switches that shift your body from alert mode into rest mode. Those switches are body temperature and brain state. Let's start with body temperature. The mechanism here is elegant. Under normal conditions, your core body temperature runs about 2 degrees Celsius higher than your skin surface temperature. As sleep approaches, your body naturally tries to close that gap, lowering internal temperature and raising skin surface temperature to radiate heat outward. This cooling of the core is what biologically triggers the sensation of sleepiness. The Stanford method gives you 3 concrete ways to support and accelerate this process. The first is a warm bath or shower roughly 90 minutes before bed. When you bathe in warm water, your core temperature temporarily rises. In response, your body works hard to shed that heat afterward. About 90 minutes later, your core temperature drops lower than it was before the bath, creating ideal conditions for deep sleep. So if you plan to sleep at midnight, finishing your shower around 10:30 p.m. puts you in the optimal window. The second technique is warm foot soaking, and it is actually Professor Nishino's preferred method, particularly for those with busy schedules who cannot always plan 90 minutes ahead. To understand why soaking your feet matters so much, you need to know that the hands and feet function as the body's primary heat radiators. They contain a specialized network of blood vessels designed specifically for releasing internal heat to the environment. When you immerse your feet in warm water, ideally between 40 and 42 degrees Celsius, the blood vessels in that area dilate significantly. Blood rushes to the feet, carrying heat from your core to the surface where it dissipates into the air. Core temperature drops. The gap between internal and external temperature narrows. Drowsiness follows. The whole process takes just 10 to 15 minutes, making it one of the most efficient sleep onset tools available. The third lever is room temperature. Your sleeping environment should be cool, typically between 20 and 25 degrees Celsius. A cool room prevents your body from overheating during the night, helps your brain sustain stable deep sleep, and reduces the chance of waking mid-cycle. Now for the second switch, your brain state. The goal here is simplicity and familiarity. Your modern brain is a pattern recognition machine running at full capacity most of the day. Analyzing, reacting, planning, worrying. To drop into deep sleep, you need to actively guide it away from that heightened state. Trying to force yourself to stop thinking rarely works and often creates more tension. A more practical approach is to give your brain something genuinely boring. Not calming, not peaceful. Boring. A dry academic textbook, an instrumental playlist you have heard so many times it holds no surprises. Content with zero novelty gives your brain no reason to stay curious or alert, so it gradually disengages and drifts toward sleep on its own. Contrast that with scrolling social media or watching a tense drama. Blue light from screens has a wavelength similar to daylight, which signals your brain to suppress melatonin production, the hormone that drives sleepiness, and the constant novelty of new information keeps your nervous system activated, pushing drowsiness further and further away. There is also the question of environmental familiarity. The human brain is instinctively vigilant in unfamiliar environments. If you change your pillow, your blanket, your mattress, or sleep somewhere new, your brain will unconsciously keep a portion of itself on alert, preventing you from reaching true deep sleep. This is why establishing a consistent pre-sleep ritual matters so much. Wearing the same sleepwear, sleeping in a room with familiar scents and light levels, following the same sequence of wind-down activities. These cues build a conditioned reflex in your nervous system. Over time, the ritual itself becomes a trigger for sleep, shortening the time it takes to fall asleep and deepening the quality of sleep once you do. When body cooling and brain quieting work together, the effect is compounding. Your physiology and psychology align to carry you smoothly into that first 90-minute cycle, where your cells repair, your toxins clear, and your energy fully restores. And you do not need 8 hours to get there. Here is something that often surprises people. Sleep and wakefulness are not two separate states. They are a continuous feedback loop. The way you start your morning directly programs the quality of your sleep that evening. So let's talk about how to wake up in a way that sets you up for a clearer day and a better night. The first technique is the double alarm, one of the most common reasons people wake up feeling terrible, even after a full night, is that their alarm fires while they are in the middle of deep sleep. That jarring interruption triggers a physiological stress response and leaves you disoriented and foggy for hours. The Stanford solution is simple. Set 2 alarms 20 minutes apart. If your target wake time is 7 a.m., set a gentle, soft-toned alarm for 6:40. That quiet chime acts as an advance notice. It nudges your brain from deep sleep into lighter sleep without forcing you awake. When the main alarm sounds at 7 o'clock, you are already in a lighter sleep stage, and waking feels natural rather than violent. The difference in how you feel is immediate and significant. The second technique is light exposure. Within the first few minutes of waking, open your curtains and let natural sunlight reach your eyes. This is the single most powerful signal you can send to your circadian system. Natural light triggers your brain to stop producing melatonin, the sleep hormone, and begin releasing cortisol, which sharpens alertness and prepares your body for active function. This is not a metaphor. It is a direct biological reset of your internal clock, telling every system in your body that a new active cycle has officially begun. A small but surprisingly effective companion habit: walk barefoot on the floor after getting up. When the soles of your feet contact a cool surface, nerve endings fire, blood vessels in the feet mildly constrict, and a crisp alertness signal travels to your brain. It is a subtle but real nudge into wakefulness. On the topic of morning exercise, the Stanford approach offers a counterintuitive note. While physical movement in the morning is beneficial, intense exercise that causes heavy sweating immediately after waking is not recommended. Rapid heat loss from the body can contribute to midday fatigue. A brisk walk or light movement is sufficient to warm the body and activate alertness without overtaxing your system this early. When you follow your natural circadian rhythm consistently, waking with light, moving gently, eating breakfast, and chewing well to increase blood flow to the brain, you are not just optimizing your morning. You are laying the groundwork for tonight's deep sleep, closing the loop on the cycle that began the night before. Building good sleep habits is only half the equation. The other half is identifying and eliminating the behaviors that silently undermine everything you are trying to build. Let's go through the most common ones. The first misconception is that alcohol helps you sleep. Many people have a drink before bed because it seems to ease the transition into sleep. And technically, it does. Alcohol's sedative effect can accelerate sleep onset, but here is what it does to your sleep architecture. It suppresses slow-wave deep sleep, fragments your sleep cycles, and increases the likelihood of waking midnight. The result the next morning is a headache, excessive fatigue, and reduced mental clarity. Long-term reliance on alcohol as a sleep aid creates a dependency cycle and progressively degrades your body's natural ability to self-regulate sleep. The second is the phone in bed. This one most people already know, but knowing and changing are different things. Blue light from screens mimics daylight, suppressing melatonin and keeping your brain in a daytime operating mode. Equally damaging is the content itself. Social media feeds, news, and notifications are specifically designed to trigger emotional reactions and sustain engagement. That means your nervous system stays activated, your cortisol stays elevated, and sleep stays elusive. The third habit is restless tossing and turning. When you cannot sleep, there is a natural impulse to keep adjusting, shifting positions, fidgeting, hoping the next configuration will be the one that finally works. But each movement sends a stimulation signal to your nervous system, making the brain more alert, not less. The Stanford recommendation is direct. If you have been lying awake for 20 minutes and sleep has not come, get out of bed. Do something genuinely low stimulation. Read a physical book that you find boring. Soak your feet in warm water in dim lighting. The goal is to break the mental association between your bed and the anxiety of trying to sleep. Once drowsiness returns naturally, go back to bed. It will come faster than you expect. The fourth trap is the weekend sleep schedule. This is one of the most damaging patterns in modern life, and it disproportionately affects younger adults. Staying up late Friday and Saturday, then sleeping in to catch up on rest sounds logical. But your circadian rhythm does not understand the concept of a weekend. Shifting your sleep schedule by 2, 3, or more hours between weekdays and weekends is enough to destabilize your entire biological clock. The result is what researchers call social jet lag, a state of chronic misalignment between your internal rhythm and the external world that leaves you exhausted at the start of every new week, before the week has even truly begun. All of this science becomes most powerful when it is anchored into a consistent daily structure. Here is a sample schedule you can adapt to your own life, one designed around the principles of the Stanford Sleep Method. 5:40 a.m., first alarm soft tone, begin your transition from deep to light sleep. 6 a.m., main alarm, rise during light sleep phase. Open curtains immediately to receive natural light. Walk barefoot briefly. Rinse hands with cool water to activate your nervous system. Morning. Eat breakfast and chew slowly and deliberately to increase cerebral blood flow. Use this high alertness window to tackle your most cognitively demanding work. Midday. If you nap, keep it between 20 and 30 minutes. A nap longer than that risks pulling you into deep sleep, which leads to post-nap grogginess and reduces your sleep drive for the night. Quick dozes on the bus or at your desk offer very little restorative value. Your brain never reaches a beneficial sleep stage. Afternoon, transition to repetitive, lower cognition tasks, administrative work, routine correspondence, review work. This aligns with the natural dip in alertness that occurs in the mid to late afternoon. 10 p.m., soak your feet in warm water for 10 minutes. Begin the thermal shift that will trigger sleepiness within the hour. After foot soak, switch to a physical book or familiar instrumental music. No screens, no news, no social media. Let your brain wind down into low stimulation. 11:30 p.m., lights out, phone down. Allow melatonin to rise naturally. Your environment should be quiet, cool, and familiar. Midnight, sleep. This is not a rigid prescription. It is a template. What matters most is the consistency of the rhythm and the intentionality behind each transition point in your day. We have covered a lot of ground today, so let me leave you with the thought that ties all of this together. For too long, our culture has framed sleep as the competitor to productivity, something you sacrifice when the stakes are high enough. Professor Seiji Nishino and the Stanford Sleep Research Center have spent decades dismantling that idea with data. Sleep is not the enemy of performance. Sleep is the foundation of it. It is the biological launchpad from which your brain and body reach their highest capacity. Yes, changing habits you have held for years is hard, but you do not have to overhaul everything tonight. Start small. Tonight, try soaking your feet in warm water for 10 minutes before bed. Tomorrow morning, set that extra gentle alarm 20 minutes early. Open your curtains before you reach for your phone. Small shifts, applied consistently, compound into profound change. When you learn to honor your sleep, your body honors you back, with clarity, with resilience, with the focused energy to pursue whatever it is you are building. Thank you so much for spending this time exploring the science of sleep. The journey of self-development is a long one, and a good night's sleep is truly the most reliable first step you can take. Sleep well tonight, and I will see you in the next episode.